pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll start with roll call.
All right, roll call. Paul Cassidy.
Here.
Tanya Hogan, here. Jerry Gulka.
Here.
John DeBoyer, absent excused. Mark Burchard.
Here.
Maureen Bory.
Here.
Brian Campbell.
Here. All right, we'll go to bills payable. I assume everybody's checked them out. And do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the bills payable for 2024-25.
Support.
For $71,706.28.
All right, any discussion? Roll call?
All right, Maureen Bory.
Yes.
Mark Burchard.
Yes.
Paul Cassidy.
Yes.
Jerry Gulka.
Yes.
Brian Campbell.
Yes.
Tanya Hogan, yes.
All right, we'll go to supervisor report.
Speak in the microphone, Paul.
Yeah, okay. Here we go. Relative to the algae plant on Harson's Island, I know Mr. Monte's having weekly meetings to keep it on track. We're concerned about money. We've been told that the federal government will provide another $2.5 million in terms of grant money for the plant, which supposedly would be $4.5 million, but we believe that that's going to fall short of the amount of money that's going to be necessary to complete the plant. I've attempted to contact Lisa McLean, but she's pretty busy crisscrossing the country right now, raising money for the Republican Party, and I have not spoken to her. We've also put calls into Senator Peters, and all I can tell you is I've discussed the matter with Mr. Monte. I think what we have to do is put together a game plan on how we're going to proceed from this point on, try to get a handle on the amount of money that's going to be necessary to finish the plant, and hopefully we can do that. I just think that it could be up to $6 million for this plant. We had our skate night last weekend. It was very well attended. I think a lot of people enjoyed it. I think we're going to continue that every year. There are a couple matters that I think the board's going to have to address, dealing with some issues of zoning and ordinance violations in the township, one being the Algonac sand and gravel, and the other one being the property owned by Champion's Auto Ferry. Other than that, I don't think I've got much more to report. We could move on to public comments. And please, ma'am, at this time, you're supposed to only comment on agenda items.
Exactly.
If you want to address something else, you get to do that at the end.
Correct. So, good evening. My name is Pam Murtis, and I'm a resident of Clay Township. I'm here tonight to formally request that this board amend the agenda to include a discussion of a feasibility study contract that was entered into with OHM. I believe that this contract was entered into without full board knowledge and approval, despite strong public opposition, and there are serious concerns about transparency, governance, and compliance with both state and federal regulations. As a taxpayer and township resident, I have the right to ask this board to address these concerns in a public setting. If there is nothing improper about this contract, then there should be no reason to avoid discussing it openly. If this board refuses to discuss the matter tonight, I will continue to pursue answers to ensure that transparency and accountability are upheld. The board serves the people of this township, not a select few. I urge you to do the right thing tonight and bring this issue into the open where it belongs. Failing to do so only raises further concerns about secrecy and the potential misuse of public funds. Therefore, I respectfully ask, is there any board member willing to motion to amend the agenda to include this topic of the contract that Clay Township has with OHM? Anyone?
I don't think so, ma'am.
Thank you.
Brian Kufelt, 8401 McKinley. Just want to touch on this capital water fund charge. Just wanted to put some simple math out there for everyone, because the only thing that you're getting from the board is that they're saving taxpayers money. What this boils down to is $10 per month, $30 per quarter, $120 per year. There are roughly 4,920 water accounts in this township. This board of four on December 16th stole $150,000 from Lance and his water department. What this cut right now would constitute is a 21% cut, again, to his budget. $590,000 out of his budget per year, okay? This resolution says we want to cut this charge, and then we want to do a study to see on whether we need it. Well, another feasibility study? Is that what we're going to do? Let's open our eyes here. We already had 4 or 5 breaks this year. We already know our infrastructure is not that great. Currently, 2025, you have an $8.3 million and a $3 million water main project that you're going to be going through with. You got $3 million in grants. Sounds like a $5 million deficit so far. Now we're going to cut money. Okay? Pretty soon, I'm pretty sure you're going to hear the whole board thank Lance for his hard work for restoring water during all these breaks. And then they're going to turn around and say, sorry, Lance, you don't need the money. So I really like to know is, if this is going to be rescinded, this water fund, what happens to those funds? I'd rather see a couple $100 in a refund back in my pocket than my $10 a month. That's 15 minutes of my work time a month. Maybe that's a little more for someone else, but come on, that's ridiculous. I'd like to see all the residents that are really squabbling over that $10 a month when you got hard workers out there restoring their utilities. I really would like to see the refund versus this becoming another slush fund for HIDA, because I really feel that's where this is going, another cash grab. What happens when we now have an insufficient water budget and the next water main breaks? Hundreds of thousands of dollars. You still haven't paid a bill from December 12th, the first break. Here we are 2 months later, and now we're going to slash more money from the water department. It makes sense because you guys slashed the $150,000 the day after the first break. The day after. That was great. So I'd like to know what your plans are for in the future when these breaks do happen, because you're not going to have the money to do it. We're going to raise the water bill. We're going to raise taxes. We're going to save you $120 now, but we're going to raise you a few $100 in the future. Something to think about. I hope this township opens up their eyes and the board of four starts voting for the township. Thank you.
Okay, I guess there's no further public comment. We'll go to consent agenda. Oh, I'm sorry.
Lance Surtee, Clay Township Water and Sewer Department Supervisor. In regards to the capital fund, at one point in time, my department took a 5-year pay freeze in order to keep us out of the red and get us back into the black when the auditors reset everything back up with the water works stuff we have in order to make the rates correct. So you're going to take $590,400 out of my budget. How are we going to come up with this? We're going to raise water rates like that? That's the reason why we have what we have, to keep the water rates low. We are one of the lowest in the town, in the county for water rates. We can go do like Marine City's doing to Cotterville. It's going to be $15 per 1,000 gallons as compared to $5.50. Or you can do like Ira does, same thing. You got to come up with a way to figure out the shortfall here for my department. I mean, you've already told me I couldn't do my building because you took my 150 away for that. I have a van that's a 1986 Ford van that needs to be replaced, and I still need a trailer. So I don't understand where you guys are going to get the money from. But Waterworth was set up with the auditors to make it the way it is right now, so we can keep our water rates at 1, 2, 3% raising a year in order to cover our cost. Now, the last break that we had over on Falkert Road, what we're noticing is that the bolts that are in the vaults for the valves and that are deteriorating, and that's what's happening, is the bolts are rusting off and the joints are coming loose. This is something that was put in 1990. So that section of the system is going to start needing attention too, as compared to what we're going to replace over here on Point Trumbull Road and the interconnect going to Ira. You're talking $8.2 million there. You're going to pay for that all with bonds? Bonds are going to be very expensive. It'd be nice to get a little bit of it from the fund here instead of doing all bonds. So, and my department doesn't get any taxpayer money at all. It's water and sewer revenue only. There is no taxpayer money at all to my department. So I hope you guys think twice on this vote. Thank you.
Hello, Artie Brayson, 8356 South Channel Drive. I was wondering if, with the 4 new board members, if they know that we have a water ordinance and if they've read it. It's about 8-9 pages, and it really deals with how and what charges are to be placed and levied for our water. And you should really look at the ordinance before you start amending things. And then I was also going to ask if anyone's worked with Waterworth, because it was all set up and going out 30 years in the future with rates and studies. And also wondering if you have a new capital improvement plan for the water system, and if Elginak provided you one for the water plant. That's all things that need to be considered before you make any decision. So, thank you.
If there's nothing further, we'll move on. Okay, the consent agenda, reports, 21025.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda consisting of approved from 2:10:25 in between meetings, 2:13:25 to 2:20:25, the board minutes from the last meeting of February 10th, 25.
I'll support.
All right. We'll just do a general vote.
Any discussion?
We're not, we'll do a roll call. Go ahead.
Okay, roll call. Mark Burchard,
Yes.
Paul Cassidy,
Yes.
Jerry Golka,
Yes.
Brian Campbell,
Yes.
Tanya Hogan, yes. Maureen Bory,
Yes.
All right, motion carried. There was the issue of the water treatment plant wetland determination. I think Mr. Monty is here. He can speak to that.
Did you forget,
Yeah.
skip the fire
Did I
department?
miss one? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Chief Rose, we can take care of that.
we're going to invite the fire chief up. He's got some announcements to make.
Good evening. I'm requesting permission from the Board of Trustees to promote the following personnel. Scott Welsh to Assistant Chief and Damian Sutton to Captain. Both Damian and Scott exceed the requirements of these positions and successfully pass their promotion exam. A couple things that I'd like to say about Scott and Damon. Scott Welsh, Scott came to Clay Township Fire after retiring from East Point as a battalion chief. He worked at East Point for over 25 years. During this time, he assisted in budgeting, a 27-man department. He also assisted in coordinating trainings and administrative duties during his career at East Point. Scott holds Firefighter 1, Firefighter 2. He's Fire Officer 3 certified. He holds ICS 1 through 4, 7 through 8. He's a paramedic, licensed paramedic for the state of Michigan. He's a hazmat technician, fire inspector, and also arson detection. And then Damon Sutton. Damon came to Clay Township back in 2013. Damon retired from Detroit EMS as lieutenant/field supervisor. He coordinated all trainings and developed lesson plans and coordinated the content over 300 EMS personnel. He's currently the Chief of Training at Riverview Fire Department. And Damon has the following certifications: Fire 1, Fire 2, Fire Officer 3. He also has ICS 1 through 4 and 7 through 8. He's also a licensed paramedic, State of Michigan Instructor Coordinator. He also has Fire Instructor 2 and Hazmat Operations, and also certified in Trench Rescue, Confined Space Rescue Operations. And I have both of them here.
So is this a new position, Assistant Chief? Is that, do we have
I don't have Assistant Chief now.
so this is a new
This is a new
position?
position.
Okay.
Yep. And I did not have a captain, so we did have one, and he did not hold all the certifications for that position.
Has Scott worked with Clay Township before?
Yes, he has.
Has he done volunteer firefighters?
Or part-time, you mean?
I'm sorry?
Has he done volunteer firefighter management?
He's managed a full-time department.
What about volunteers? A little different.
Well,
Or part-time, I should say.
part-time, yes, he has.
Okay.
So will this be full-time positions?
There'll be our part-time, there'll be full-time positions, but they work part-time. Okay.
Right.
Full-time, part-time.
So they won't be qualified for benefits and things like that, you
Right.
mean? Okay.
They'll work their normal duty shifts.
Where are they at? Can they stand up so I can take a look at them? And
Scott, Damon?
make sure they got 2 legs and 2 arms?
I'll have you guys come on up.
So who's Scott and who's Damon?
This is Scott. This is Scott.
Okay.
This is Damon.
Okay. Great. All right.
Well, one of the questions I always ask, but you guys have been here for a while, so I assume that you all know how to swim and run a boat.
Yes, sir.
Great.
All right. Thanks for coming on with this, because we have to vote for this, right?
Sure.
So I'll make a recommendation or a motion to approve Scott Walsh to Assistant Chief, Clay Township Fire Department, and David Sutton as the captain for the Clay Township Fire Department, effective 2/24/25.
Support.
All right. Do a roll call.
All right, roll call. Paul Cassidy,
Yes.
Jerry Gulka,
Yes.
Brian Campbell,
Yes.
Tanya Hogan, yes. Maureen Bory,
Yes.
Mark Burchard.
Yes.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, guys. Thank you.
I guess now we could get to Mr. Bonte.
John Monte, Project Control Engineering, 2420 Point Trumbull Road. don't have anything near as rosy to talk about as the last guys did. But anyway, this is regarding the ASTI invoice that was received for Harson's Island for the wastewater treatment plant. So ASTI is an environmental company that we've used since the initiation of this project. They've done a lot of research on properties for wetlands, research for upland areas that we could use for the purpose of mitigation. And what I mean by that is the current site that we have for the wastewater treatment plant is 90% wetlands. And so as part of that process, we have to somehow replace that. So we're disturbing, I believe it's approximately 0.81 acres of wetland, and the replacement ratio is 2 to 1. So we need to purchase wetland credits on the amount of 1.62 acres, or we need to find a piece of property that's an upland and create it into a wetland area. Both are extremely expensive, but we've researched, Eagle put us through quite a task early on in the process because they wanted us to find a mitigation site on Harson's Island or to find an upland area on Harson's Island, which is extremely difficult to do. So ASTI has been involved for a long period of time. Their invoicing has been on a time and material basis, and this was another task that we were asked to take a look at the site that's immediately adjacent to the wastewater plant site, because there were some uplands on that site, to see if we could find enough area to move the plant that would help in the reduction of the costs that it's going to be for the mitigation. So mitigation currently is around $130,000 an acre. So our cost for this would be $210,000. So if we were able to find something nearby that could mitigate part of that cost, or even if you were purchasing a piece of property that you could save money on that was still nearby, what we wanted to do is to make sure that we weren't, well, hopefully the idea was not to relocate it to some other location that is even more difficult to, one, to get to, and to be able to service the vicinity that we're working in, or to maybe modify our discharge requirements, which we're waiting on the permits for that currently. So that's what this invoice was about, was to investigate the site. We did do that investigation. We found that there was considerable amount of wetlands. The amount of upland area that was available was not as desirable to the landowner as to where we could place the treatment plant site. Because as you can imagine, if it's your own property, where would you want to put it on the site? What would fit that would work for you as well? So this was an effort to try to save some money. Does anybody have questions about that?
You said it was $130,000 an acre?
That's the current, my understanding is the current value if you purchase a wetland credit.
All right, so
So there's
210,000
wetland
is
banks.
1.6.
Yep.
Gets you the 210, okay. Got it. Okay, thanks, Chad.
Are there any local wetland banks around here?
There's some wetland banks in Marine City. That's the closest location that I'm aware of.
So is it true that this project can run upwards to $6 million?
Well,
Are we talking?
I'm not exactly sure about that, but I mean, as you get into it, you find that there's, early on, some of the estimates were provided by the company that helped us with the algae wheel process, knowing that they've had plants that were constructed in other areas. As you look further on Harson's Island and we do the soil borings on the site, we know that we have to put piling under everything. You know, some of the costs locally look like they're rising, you know, as we get into the design of the plant. Even far as the right-of-way, us acquiring easements to be able to put in the additional utilities that we're proposing. So as you look at that, we start to worry, and I've expressed my concern to Mr. Cassidy that we wanted to get together and meet and discuss where we're at, what's going on. We're getting closer to having a set of plans available to be able to submit to Eagle to start that first process. We're currently waiting for the NPDES permit, which is the discharge permit. We keep hearing in 2 weeks and 2 weeks and 2 weeks. So it's, the last conversation that we had was about a week ago, which it was indicated to us that they were currently responding to the concerns that people had during the public notice comment period, and that we should have a permit within a couple weeks. So that's kind of the process.
So I wonder if we find we're not going to be able to move forward on this and we've spent, a great deal of the $2 million that we've already had, are we going to be responsible to give that back? How does that work?
No, I'm not saying you're not going to be able to construct the plant. Don't take that wrong. I don't think that's the situation. We might have to reduce the scope of work that we're going to do with where we intended to extend phase 1 of the collection system. I see that that's probably the area that would be more of the easier spot to cut back.
So not
But I
extending.
still see us constructing the plant. I'm not saying we're not going to do that. I mean, I
We would just stick
feel
with phase
confident.
1 for the 4.5 million and not go on to any other phase,
Well,
unless we can afford it.
phase 1 included probably, I think, 80 or 90 residents or
In
sites.
downtown.
Including downtown plus homes. And that was phase 1. The other phases that we had and that we proposed were merely things to pre-design for the future. So it's like we're putting a pipe in that's coming out of the wastewater plant and starting downtown. We don't want that to be too small that in the future we can never extend it. So some of the future phases I created to be able to pre-design so that we had a concept of what we'd do. We wouldn't get trapped in the future of not putting in the right size pipe and stuff like that. So those future phases were exactly what it was all future. But phase 1 in itself, we're going to look at maybe scaling that back, and that'll all be based on, what kind of funds we do have available at the time.
So when you scale that back, then we won't be able to add on, because you'll have to go with smaller pipes.
No, we'll still be able to add on. We just won't be able to serve, for example, if that was 90 homes or businesses and homes, 90, maybe we can only do 30. You know what I mean? So we just won't go as far. That's what I'm saying.
I have a question. When was it discussed, was this in the plans prior to look at this other property? Because receiving this bill, this was the first I heard that we were looking at other properties besides the ones that we already had purchased. So I just, had a little disconnect on when we approved to look into the other properties.
Well, I was actually asked by the supervisor to
Okay.
investigate the other property. I think he had discussions with the property owner, thinking that there may be some possibility to do that and save some money in the long run.
And is this going to be a pressurized line or gravity?
It's pressurized.
That's what I thought. Why would you need pilings? For what?
Well, pilings are for the construction of the building,
The building only?
yes.
And, what happens though if we don't move forward? Are we going to be responsible to return the money? Do you know how that works?
I don't know how that works, but I don't think it'll be a return of money.
Okay. And then, I have so many questions about this plant. After it's finished, it's great, we get it all paid for by grant money, but then how much is it going to be to maintain it? Are we going to have employees? Is that going to be
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, as we go on, we need to refine that. There was some very early estimates on operational costs for the plant that, again, this was provided to us by Algae Wheel, who has experience with other plants and other locations. We probably do need at some point to get involved with that, and we've been talking about meeting to go over all of this, actually, to see what the costs will be. The plant, this particular plant is very low energy, very small operational cost. I mean, that's part of the reason probably part of the reason that we got grant money for this was the fact that it's like a net zero energy-wise with solar panels in such a low operating cost that there won't be, hopefully, any huge maintenance fees. The operator for the plant, we're proposing to use the operator that's at the I don't
Southwater?
remember, Southwater, right, had said early on that he'd be willing to work with us. It's very minimal time required. This is not where someone has to be at a plant daily to watch over everything, but it still requires a certified operator to do that, so there's an expense for that. We're trying to also automate everything as much as we can so that, nowadays it's so much easier to look at your phone and see what's happening at the plant or get an alert if there's an issue or something that needs to be addressed. So we're trying to incorporate those kind of items to make it much simpler and user-friendly.
What about supplies, to treat the algae or all that type of thing?
There's some of that as well that is required. Yeah.
We just don't have any numbers or anything.
We have some early numbers. I'm not prepared tonight to
Right.
shoot out a number to you, Maureen, so.
I've been trying to get that information for a while, so if you could email it to me, I'd appreciate more detail.
Okay.
Or to Paul or
Do
whoever.
you have any estimate on when the completion date would be?
Not yet. No, we're hoping to get the permit. I mean, we've been waiting on that. With the process that you go through with Eagle, there's also, once we turn in drawings to them, that's another whole period of time to be able to get approvals for that, for the drawings and what we've done. And I know a lot of people are very anxious to get it in the ground. We were hoping to do that even sooner than right now, but we don't even have the permit to turn in our drawings yet. So,
Are we going to have to charge these 30 homes or downtown or whatever to pay for these supplies and things later? Is that
Yes.
how it's going to work?
Yep.
So we kind of need to know that number, so, yeah. Okay.
You're going to have a pressurized system in every house then, right?
Correct. So the reason that we're proposing that is the pressurized system is normally used in an area that is flat, that has a high groundwater table, or maybe is difficult to get to or narrow right-of-ways. So if you put in a gravity sewer system, the pipes are generally, well, in most areas, you start them at 9 feet deep, and you go until the depth gets too much to where then you put in a pump station and you lift it and go further. On Harson's Island, we were very concerned at the early estimates looking at what it would cost to get materials and to be able to excavate down the middle of the street and replace the street, the stone, the aggregate, the pavement, and haul materials out, haul clean, compactable materials back in to be able to construct the project. The pressurized system is not a major savings, but what it does is you can install the lines shallow. They're like putting in the depth of a water line. They can be directional drilled, so rather than required to be open cut. So you can do that, but then what happens is every home or business has to have a pump that pumps into a pressurized system that leads to the plant. So, again, it's not cheap, but you look at also the availability of materials and how you would be able to maneuver and construct that on the island. So, that all played into the decisions on why we were looking at a pressurized system. They're very common. They're used all over the place. We just don't have any right here in this immediate area, but it's pretty common.
So one single lift pump wouldn't suffice for the distance in the homes, in a number of homes?
Well, no, you would use single lift pumps when you're doing a community of area, and when you start to get too deep, use that pump to lift it up and start over again. So that you're, like, you can only go so far by gravity, right, to where it gets too deep and for constructability. And that all depends on the ground conditions and where you're located, how we choose when you put a pump in. So what's happening with this is every individual will have a pre-manufactured little pump station that is maybe 2 to 3 foot diameter and 7 foot in height overall. Your septic tank gets disconnected. The line leading from your house goes into the pump station, and it's pumped from there out to the street into a force main. So it's all pressurized force main, and every individual has to have a pump.
Well, I think this is great in trying to move it so that we wouldn't have to get wetland delineation, trying to find a place for it, Paul. My concern is even if we get the discharge permit, we still have no wetland to trade for, so what's the
We have
plan?
to purchase credits.
All right.
So
we-
this was a
we just-
means of trying to reduce
Not
that, or possibly eliminate it, or possibly buy property cheaper than we're going to pay for the wetland credits.
And I know we've looked at a lot of places, so we're probably just going to have to pay the $210,000.
That's
to get
what
the
it's
credit.
looking like, yes.
Okay,
And how big does it have to be again? How many acres?
1.6.
We have to purchase 1.62 acres, I believe it is.
Okay. Thanks, John.
All right, thanks, Don.
You're welcome.
Well, I don't know, this was tabled, I assume it was a question of whether to pay it or not, or to,
Well, we weren't questioning whether to pay it, we wanted the information about it.
yeah.
So we
okay.
wanted to have get more information because we weren't quite sure what we were paying for.
All right.
So that's why we tabled.
And then the line number, we were trying to make sure it was going to come out of the grant money, right?
Yeah,
That
and
was
it
another
is.
reason,
Mhm.
so.
All right,
Make a motion?
Motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the ASTI invoice for the Harson's Island wastewater treatment plant on wetland determination of $5,024.13 out of line 597-000-807.
Second.
All right, roll call?
All right, Jerry Golka,
Yes.
Brian Campbell.
Yes.
Tanya Hogan, yes. Maureen Bory,
Yes,
Mark Richard,
Yes.
Paul Cassidy.
Yes. All right, we'll move on to new business. Renewal of the yearly service agreement with Motorola. Do we have a motion on that?
I think Chief's going to come up and talk about it a little bit.
Okay,
I might.
thought we were all aware of it, but,
Good evening. This is, like it says, it is a yearly maintenance contract with Motorola. This covers everything in our dispatch as far as our consoles and for our communications, covers that, and the radios and consolettes that drive everything. Pretty much everything is set by Motorola. We don't have a choice but to use Motorola. And honestly, it's pretty much a monopoly. There is no one else. I fought with them for probably 4 years where they were really trying to hike this up. And we went back and forth quite a bit. If not, we would have probably been looking at more along the lines of 13,000 in that right now. But I really can't get any further with trying to beat them up. I also beat them up when we did our reconstruction of our dispatch. At that point, they wanted $15,000 to move everything and move it back. I was able to get them to do it for no charge. So this year, I wasn't going to try to push the issue with what they raised on our maintenance agreement. Last year, we paid $7,739.01, so we're roughly a 10% increase this year, which is pretty much standard what we're seeing with everything across the board. But it's one of those necessary evils we have to have. Something goes down there, they're on call 24/7, and basically that's a lifeline to, all of our public safety out there, so.
I have a question, Chief. Do you have any long-range plans on this Motorola monopoly that you have and going with a different system? I think the fire department...
Until they came out with something else, no.
I think the fire
Well, the
department...
difference is, I know you're going to go with this.
Yeah.
With radios, totally different. When you're talking consoles, there's only 2 companies that make consoles, and the other company wouldn't even be available in our area. So that's why I say it's pretty much a monopoly there. It's not like going to buy prep radios or in-car radios, where you can look between, like we did, we went with Kenwood radios to reduce the cost. You can't do that with this. With this, you don't have a choice. And Central Dispatch and all the other dispatch centers are going through the same thing. About 4 years ago, they changed this. We used to use a company called ComSource, which they were an affiliate of Motorola Solutions, and they would do our maintenance agreements and contracts. Well, Motorola came around with new leadership and says, we're doing away with that. No longer are you paying maintenance agreements to them, you're paying the maintenance agreements to us. However, it's still the same people that come out and service our equipment. So, like I said, when we first got hit with this, I battled with them because I said, listen, we're a small agency. How we pay for this? We went back and forth, and I was able to obtain like 4 years in discounts to where it didn't shoot up for us. About as far as I could get with it. In the grand scheme of things, like Central Dispatch, they're paying quite a bit more than what we are, obviously. But unfortunately, that's where we sit with, because this is a system that's linked with Michigan State, so therefore only certain vendors can even touch the equipment.
But we own the equipment.
We own the equipment, yes.
Just the one unit in the front there, right?
Well, there's several moving parts within this. From the tower that you see back here that houses the antennas, to if you go into our IT room, you've got a rack of radio consolettes, which drives everything you see up front. Basically up front, all you got is a computer and monitors. The heart of it and everything that drives it's in our IT room in the back. So kind of like you'd see in a server room, something like that.
All that, okay.
Yeah, there's quite a few moving parts within it, so.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion to approve the yearly service agreement with Motorola in the amount of $8,512.90 from line number 207-00932.
Support.
All right, roll call.
Brian Campbell?
Yes.
Tanya Hogan? Yes. Maureen Bory?
Yes,
Mark Richard?
Yes.
Paul Cassidy?
Yes.
Jerry Golka?
Yes.
All right, we'll move on to the
Thank you.
Gabriel Marine invoice.
thanks, Mike.
The emergency barge rental.
It was right the first time.
Any questions?
Were you surprised at the bill?
I was surprised at all the bills, but I've never had anybody work for me to the extent that this was happening,
That what?
that this happened.
Yeah,
I've never had
no, I
anybody,
understand that.
I mean, you had the divers come in, and they were union divers, so everything after 8 hours was double time, whatever the case may be. Not any different than Mr. Gabriel with his barge. Everything was winterized. He had to bust ice to get it all the way out to get to us. And, he worked with us with his excavator on board. We used his generators. There was all kinds of equipment from him that we used. He was able to bring the barge up into the shallow water for us to transfer the hydraulic cutters and everything else that the divers had onto the barge, along with all the sandbags that we put underneath the water main in order to make it, give it support. And then we hauled out a full pallet of concrete, which was laid on top of the water main once we backfilled to give it protection.
You know, he did kind of give you a quote of about 30,000 a day,
Yes, yes.
but this is like $26,000 more than that would have been, correct?
Well, it took a little bit longer, too, than what we expected.
I do know we got a letter from Mr. Highbauer threatening a civil action against us for not paying him, but I was a little surprised because he put in his invoice, you got 10 days to pay this, and I think that was a little bit much in my mind. But that has nothing to do with the cost.
I was actually surprised that we didn't pay this at the last meeting,
Because we paid everything else, right?
because everything else was paid in full. Yes, ma'am.
And didn't we, what did the insurance company say about this? They haven't approved or disapproved anything?
They sent the pipes down for valuation.
Yes,
Well, Lance drove
I
us
drove,
down.
I drove the pipe to Chicago
Yeah.
for the metallurgist to take a look at it, and it's a couple-week wait that they're testing the pipe and doing, but me and Jerry did get out of the gentleman that was here, the engineer, that the pipe was hit by something. He did say that.
So if the insurance company deems that it was a hit and it is a covered item, and we pay this invoice, we should get reimbursed?
Yes.
Well, we should, but the insurance companies can always say, hey, we don't think that's
Yeah,
justified.
they could say it's not worth $116,000 and say, we're only going to give you $70,000, we're only going to give you $50,000.
Oh,
That's
I-
reality too.
Well, how do we, I mean, do we know what anyone else?
I think we should pay it and then fight somebody else with it later on. I mean, we do owe it.
The work is
I don't
done, and he
disagree with
was
you.
there when we were in a time of
I don't disagree
need.
with you.
Under the circumstances,
Yeah.
I mean, it was an emergency situation. Everything that we'd done worked very, very well. We were only without water for about 4 days.
Right.
It
You
could have
know,
been a lot
If we would have had to bore
worse.
another line or something like that, we would probably been talking a good week, maybe a little bit longer. But, I
Didn't we
mean,
have a bill from Algonac for like 68,000 on something?
no, we don't have a bill
What
for
is that?
68,000. There's a bill with the time for my department, because we were told by emergency management to make sure that everything is totaled and billed, no matter whose department, whatever it is. It was just, Algonac brought their fireboat in, we used their fireboat to do the jetting underneath the water main.
What did they charge us?
Nothing.
I thought there was a bill to pay. There's a bill to Algonac.
There's a bill, but
There is no such thing as mutual aid between DPWs. Algonac has their fireboat, and I told them to bill us, because if we get reimbursed from the insurance company, Algonac should be reimbursed for their time.
I was just wondering what the bill was. I didn't recall. Do you remember?
I didn't bring it with me. It
I think it's
was,
$11,000.
yeah, it's
Oh.
not much.
Okay.
I mean, there
I
was
thought
one
it
of the
was
guys
more.
from the DPW, I borrowed a piece of pipe from their DPW because I didn't have any 12-inch ductile in stock. We borrowed some stone from them. We work very well with Algonac.
For sure.
And the reason this wasn't on the last agenda is because I did not have the bill to put on the agenda. I hadn't seen it yet.
Oh, okay.
Well, he turned the bill in too a month after it happened. It wasn't like he billed us like the other companies did right away. It was the 25th of January that he billed us.
Okay.
But the other thing is, I want to say is, there's only so many contractors that are local.
Right.
And if I need a contractor, I really don't want to cut off my nose to spite my face here and not have this gentleman to pick from in order to help me out in the future.
And if we would have had to bring someone in from somewhere else, it would have been a lot more.
Ballard was going to bring theirs in, which had to come all the way from the other side of the lake. Would have been another 2 days in transit,
Right.
and would have been $260,000.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I'll make a motion to approve the barge rental for the water main repair tuned to $116,620 out of line item 591-000-940.00.
Support.
All right, roll call?
Roll call, Tanya Hogan, yes. Maureen Bory,
Yes.
Mark Richard,
Yes.
Paul Cassidy.
Yes.
Jerry Golka,
Yes.
Brian Campbell.
Yes.
All right, 1C Resolution 2025-2, terminate new capital water fund, and doesn't say here, but terminate I would imagine is to terminate the deduction on the water bills or the charge on the water bills.
Yeah, it was moved from debt to a new capital water fund. We didn't have,
Yes, I know.
With the ongoing projects and the things that we've all been voting on, I made a motion to move it to that, so we have that revenue to continue. I mean, we've had 5 water main breaks since December 12th, 5. And then we're going to just take even more money from the water department when we need to have revenue to pay for the project so our people can have water.
Well, see, that's the word you used that I think you're wrong on, revenue. Philosophically, I don't think we should do it. It does make sense to do it, but a lot of people think, well, government should run like a business, but government isn't a business. We don't have revenue coming to us for the sale of products or goods or services. And so our only alternative is to tax or to bond. And philosophically, I believe that, we're charging people on this fund, and if they move out of our community, they've paid for services or products that they're never going to receive the benefit from. On the other hand, Lance made a good argument, and that gentleman made a good argument. We met with Watersmeet, right?
Yeah, we have another meeting this week to
Why don't we
see
just
where we're going to
table
be
this?
sitting.
Why don't we
Yeah.
I would suggest we table it, we meet with them again, and I think that how they finance water issues is a way to go. And if we spend a little bit more time, we might decide that we should just leave this alone.
I agree.
well, another thing I think is important to look at is these projects that we have coming up.
Yep.
And I'd like to get that detail from you too, John. Is all the bidding complete on these projects? Is there some place we might be able to save some money? I have not seen, and I've asked for this repeatedly, I couldn't get it from, the previous board or this board of these projects and the detail. And, who's bidding and what's going on. And that way we can look and see, well, maybe we can get some more estimates on this, and maybe we can eliminate that. You know what I mean? To look at what we're doing. So,
Well, John and I are going to meet, if you're welcome, anybody's welcome to meet.
okay, let me know.
We can send that out, yeah. When the meeting is.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd like to see if there's still projects that have to go out for bid and what, so we know what we're looking at, and then we can compare it with our budget and know what, if we need to continue to collect this money or not.
Well, the other thing you got to think about is maintaining the system that is put in 1990 that's starting to have issues. So we've had a
Aren't
couple
we
sales.
replacing a lot of that?
No, this section here is one of the newest sections. We're not going to touch that.
did they scope those lines? Did they put a TV down those lines?
No, you can't TV water main.
You can, eh?
No, but that's all plastic. But here again, I was just talking about bolt failure and stuff like that. I mean, it's just something that happens with, older water main.
Right.
Now, 3 of the breaks that we had, I mean, the one on the 3-inch, the one on the 8-inch in front of the chill box, and the one down on Pearl Beach. Those will be sections, now, if this project goes, the $8.2 million project, those will be sections that will be replaced. We won't have to worry about that. The whole riverfront will be all done. Then we'll put everything out here on 29, hooked to the new main, and then the crossings will be all new also. So that'll eliminate a lot of our issues. But it's just the object, now we're starting to have problems back here. So it's something that you guys got to think about, but we got to be able to fund the department and make sure that we have enough funds to keep the department going to do the repairs that we have to do.
I'm going to make a motion to postpone Resolution 2025-02 to terminate the new capital water fund.
Support.
Roll call.
All right, Maureen Bory?
Yes.
Mark Burchard?
Yes.
Paul Cassidy?
Yes.
Jerry Golka?
Yes.
Brian Campbell?
Yes.
Tanya Hogan? Yes.
All right. We have an opportunity for public comment again. Is there anybody who would like to make a public comment?
Good evening. My name is Crystal Hagedon. Within the last 2 years here, I am a new resident of Harson's Island, and as of January, I am the newest board member on SS Downtown Inc. I'm here to offer my support for planning for our block party, street party that happens on the island. I believe this will be our third consecutive year, and we know with the changeover, there's a lot going into a lot of planning, so just wanted to show our support and say we're here for any support you could use for planning. Knowing what goes into these, pretty extensive work for event planning. I do have my resume here. I have pretty extensive experience in event management, so wanted to offer that here. And then I will also follow this up with an email as well to the full board saying who I am, how we're here, and offering a meeting if you're interested to hopefully plan that event.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Crystal.
Pam Murtis. The board voted on December 16th of last year to allocate funds for a feasibility study, but no discussion of procurement proceedings or on the final selection, a vote for the final selection of who was going to be awarded the contract took place at meetings after that. And when the last public board meeting of 2024 took place on December 20th, no vote had been taken to obligate the remaining ARPA funds. It was actually mentioned at that meeting that there were only 11 days left to obligate those funds. I've sent multiple inquiries to the board voicing concerns over the remaining ARPA funds, but have had no satisfactory answers. Board member Maureen Bory did email me stating that that protocol for spending ARPA funds had been followed. No one is lying or trying to hold any information from the public. She recommended that I submit a list of questions and that it would be answered in a timely fashion. I still have not gotten any answers, even though I did email my questions. After that, Ms. Bory told me that she had been instructed to inform me to contact the Attorney General with my concerns. That's deeply troubling, as it suggests an unwillingness by the board to provide transparency and fulfill its obligation to inform the public. When I asked Mr. Golka directly during a recent phone conversation if the township does have a contract with OHM to conduct a feasibility study, he said yes, and that it is sitting on his desk for all board members to look at. But if no vote had been made at the last public meeting of 2024 regarding how the funds were going to be obligated and who the contract was going to be awarded to, how is it, I'd also like to know how is it that the contract happened to be the exact dollar amount that had been previously been obligated to the water department, which was $150,000. So with no discussion, with no contracts companies talked about, $150,000 that was taken from the water department, all of a sudden that was the magic number that OHM, that their contract happened to be. I would love to know why weren't all the board members included in a discussion as to who was going to be awarded that contract, and when this actual contract was awarded, at which public board meeting did the vote take place, exactly which board members voted for this contract and which were against it. I've been told by a few board members that they were not aware of that contract before it was entered into. So it's disappointing that no one really wanted to discuss it today. And again, these are but a few of the many questions that concerned Clay residents would love to know. Yep, there's my 3 minutes.
Hello, Artie Bryson, 8356 South Channel Drive. I mentioned to you earlier today about the water ordinance and how it works, and if you guys read it or not. In there, it describes on what you can charge for and everything as pertaining to charges. Nowhere in the ordinance does it say you can charge a capital water fund. So you are breaking your own ordinance by calling it that. And I want to talk a little bit about township policy. And right now, the policy is for anything over $2,000, the whole board has, the supervisor cannot approve it. It has to go before the whole board before you go forward with something. $2,000 limit. The ASTI was obviously over $2,000, and on that same project, I'm guessing there was probably some PCE bills for those same 3 lots, because they have to, do a survey on that. And if it's true, the OHM, there's a signed agreement. It's state law that any contract township offers in has to have board approval and a roll call vote towards that. So I really hope that that's not true. And there is not a signed agreement, because there's some big mistakes being made. And that's all I wanted to comment. Thank you.
Artie also had agreements approved before the board approved them.
You want to talk about it?
Yeah,
No.
please, of course not.
Any other public comment? We'll go to board member comments. Maureen, anything?
Just congratulations to Damon Sutton as captain and Assistant Chief Scott Walsh. I know Chief's going to appreciate your hard work and dedication. And that's it.
Planning Commission on the 26th. We have a host of items we have to cover. So it'll be interesting. Don't miss it.
Okay. I have nothing further.
26th.
Mr. Galka?
I just wanted to say that our Valentine's Ice Party was a success. It only cost us $1,425. The rest was all in sponsors and donations. I'd like to thank some of the organizers and the workers. We got Cheryl Restivo, Jared Galka, Kathy Schmansky, Dee Miller, Great Lakes Dan from Cotterville, Greg Abbey, Supervisor of Cotterville, Brian Campbell, Clay Trustee, Maureen Borey, Clay Trustee, Andrew Elderson, Brian Rafferty, Ryan Lozan, Bradley Bransfield, Cheryl Murray, Clay Township DPW, Clay Township Fire Department, and our sponsors and donators were Detroit Red Wings, River Gypsy Whipsy, Charles Fanson donated cords of wood, Johnny Ringo donated some more wood, Danny Walker, Connolly Foam Insulation donated some wood and trailer also, Jason Wassel donated some wood, Kelly Green, Straw Bales, Catch 22 sponsored us, Clay Township Police Officers Association sponsored us, Clay Township Downtown Development Authority, Life Care Chiropractic, Cabana Blue, Project Control Engineering, High Tech Systems Incorporated also sponsored us.
No food?
Anything? Well, I just want to congratulate Scott and Damon again and thank them for being part of our fire department. We appreciate everything all our departments do for us and the community.
The next board meeting is March 10th at 6 PM. Is there any motion to adjourn?
I'll do a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?